Hello and welcome to my reaction video of Stranger Things Season 4 Part 1 Episode 4. Let's get to it.
You do not speak to anyone about this.
Let's tell everyone.
No way. I know.
So I was taking a look at the episode titles because I realized looking at this one caught my attention, so I realized I didn't even remember what the name of episode 2 was, because I remembered episode 1 was the Hellfire Club, D&D, so I remembered that. And I remembered the previous episode, episode 3, was about the superhero and the monster, because Elle was all with her fight with Mike, saying, "I'm a monster," or you think I'm a monster, rather. I'm not a superhero. And he's like, "I think you're a superhero, not a monster," that kind of thing. So I remembered that title. But episode 2 is called Vecna's Curse. And I did not remember that at all, because it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't tie in. It's fine, I guess, to have the kids saying it, but it really is pointless. It doesn't, like, they're trying to connect D&D to the situation, but it's completely unnecessary, and it doesn't really fit. So I couldn't even remember it, Vecna and Curse, because this isn't really a curse. This is someone or something specifically finding someone, haunting them. It says join me, but then kills them. So I don't get that. Unless it's because they said no, so he kills them. So then I was looking at this episode titled Dear Billy, and of course that's Max's brother who is dead. Sounds like a letter.
So we're just supposed to trust that you're the good guys? Whoever you are?
Maybe just assume none of them
We're
are.
friends of Owen's. Now we're asking the same from
I feel like he's still more like Brenner than, anyone else. We have the government showing up at Mike's and Will's place. Sorry, Mike's just there. Will and Jonathan's place. They're there because of Owens. They let them know Elle has gone with him to try to get her powers back. They need her to get her powers back. Two guys are gonna stay with them, helping them stay protected from. I'm unclear, and we have Max fully realizing, hey, I saw this clock. It's me. Uh-oh. And now Elle gave Mike a note. Dear Mike, because you didn't say love you, I decided to go to the labs again. My life in the laboratory is for me. Goodbye. Yeah, girls tend to remember things and overthink things sometimes, but they're always thinking, whether it's a million different things that may or may not matter, or things that do matter, and they see it, they dissect every little layer and all that. A lot of girls do that. And Elle seems to be like that. She is still hung up. I laughed when I read her little note saying she went to the laboratory to become a superhero again. She wrote, from, not love, from. Take that, Mike. Ouch. So that was pretty funny. And that was the opening. That was a strong opening.
Like you can contain any of this without Elle.
That voice change.
Yeah.
You're supposed to keep those. It's so weird to see these guys in puberty.
That was you guys.
They were little boys. Now look at them. Hormones, people.
It's gonna be up to us again.
Changes us all. Okay, so we have Nancy and Steve and, basically almost everybody else. And they're all trying to figure out how to keep Max from being killed next. She is possibly the next target, or one of the targets. I mean, they don't know that the other Jack has been experiencing stuff. Well, technically he hasn't experienced anything yet. All he nosebleed. I don't really know how that all works. But he's obviously another target. They don't know about that, though. So they're concerned about Max anyway, because that's their friend. Nancy and Robin have come up with a plan, which, I mean, I'm sure it'll somehow work, but it shouldn't. They're going to pretend to be students and want to talk to this high-security mental patient prisoner. He's a guy who killed his family, or at least people think he did. Mike and Will have a talk. It's nice that they're having so many talks. Mike's feeling down because Eleven's gone, and Will tries to cheer him up a bit, being like, she's the one who handles all this stuff, not Owens. And it's you guys who saved me, not Owens, the last time, with the Mind Flayer in Season 2.
Yeah.
Oh, is this in case she dies? Well, she's very accepting of her demise. Yeah. Max wrote letters to her friends about. Well, I don't know what they say, but apparently she spent the night doing that instead of sleeping. Although she still looks better than me on a sleep deprived day, so whatever. Anyway, so she wrote letters to everybody. She's decided that she's probably gonna die, I guess. That's a. It just. My guess is it has a bit to do with how bad she's been feeling lately. Maybe Vecna has a part of it, but I think all of these people so far that have been targeted, with they said they have PTSD and past trauma and stuff, and I'm thinking they were already haunted by that stuff, and then this creature uses his mind powers or some connection somehow to make them amplified to haunt them, and that somehow allows him to get into their head, and or maybe it doesn't even allow him to get in and he just does it to be an a-hole.
No.
I know a good lawyer.
Yeah, I'm gonna call your bluff, child. And you wonder why you can't get girls, Steve. This is it. This is it. Nancy and Robin have managed to convince him, the guy in charge of the institute, the mental institute where Victor is locked up, to allow them to see him just by being like, we want to be like you. Flattery. I suppose it could work. Max wants to go somewhere. If this is her last day, she doesn't want to be in some basement. They're going somewhere. She made sure they're still in radio contact with Robin and Nancy. They think Victor will have an idea of what is doing this, since the same thing happened to his family and he's been locked up, so it can't have been him. Let's see what happens.
Please have some coffee, still hot. This could be a while.
Don't drink drinks from strange men. Okay, so I'm gonna go right on being confused. Max went to see. Well, she originally intended to leave a letter for her mom, and then she ended up talking to her. But now I don't even know if she really talked to her or not. Turned into the hallucination crap or whatever, that she sees in her head. So I have no idea if any of it actually happened or none of it. And if some of it happened, it's weird. Because why would the mom have a nice conversation with her daughter? It was actually really nice to have them have the conversation. But then once again, the show took away my points because it was all, oh, this probably didn't happen. But the thing is, it doesn't make sense either way. If none of it happened, why did the hallucination pretend to be a nice mother for a while and then turn? But if some of it was real, then what? The mom just somehow walked off and didn't notice her daughter hallucinating or seeing crap? So it just doesn't work either way. In Russia, we got some activity happening. Hopper made his move to get out. He succeeded. I'm hoping we can just get out of Russia and be done with it. But the problem I have is that his ride is this Yuri, who Murray and Joyce met, who, by the way, he's a very weird person, okay? He's very weird. He thinks he's funny, and he's not. I don't know if it's a lost in translation humor, or he just is that obnoxious. But I find him extremely obnoxious, which is obviously intentional. It's his character. He's a very animated fellow. Well, right off, he starts off with a story about a bear, and I was like, well, as soon as he said the bear crawled into the cockpit and killed Yuri, I'm like, okay, so you're Yuri. Got it. All right, fine. No problem with him, being a jokester, having fun. Except, then he wants to count the money. Okay, maybe he's just excessively greedy or untrusting. Fine. But then he offered them coffee. And I'm like, is he drinking from the same pot? Because otherwise, you don't know this guy. Woman rule 101, and it should be a rule for everybody. Do not drink drinks that you're not sure about. And they don't know this guy. Things have gone well on the Russian side. Whether they're going to go well on the American side, I'm not so sure. Because another thing is, he, instead of just going right to do the job once he got the money, he's all, oh yes, but let me do this first. And I'm like, okay. Not getting a trusting feeling with this man. So I don't think things are gonna go well, and that sucks if they're not, because that means they won't get out of Russia, and I want them to get out of Russia. I don't want Hopper to be some prisoner in Russia. I want the old Hopper back, not the season 3 angry, mean Hopper. Season 1 and 2 Hopper, the investigative, curious, smart police chief. And what other things should I put on the wish list of things I'll probably never have again? Ah, these bushes. So soft. Look at the pretty ladies all feeling the bushes.
Something rather urgent I need to check on anyway, so. Sure.
Yeah, he's probably gonna go check on who the heck they are. The ladies at the Institute going to see Victor. Hmm, um, so Robin got the guy's name wrong that is who they're supposedly studying under. That was like their way in. And I think the guy is 100% going to go check on their story. Yeah, they screwed up, but I still think it's hilarious that this guy is suspicious of them, but he's still like, go on alone to talk to the person you need to talk to, the one that you tricked your way, or possibly tricked your way into getting in your seat. So I think it's odd that if he's suspicious, he would really go and let them talk to to him alone. But hey, guess what? Yep, it was definitely intentional on the show's part. Freddy Krueger references and similarities, because the actor who played the original Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies is this Victor guy in the cell. I recognize his voice and then his silhouette looked close enough like it that I'm like, is it him? And then they showed his face. I'm like, yep, it's him. Pretty neat show.
I think we should work together. I think it'll be easier if we're a team.
We have 1
Friends.
week, then we have to get back to school. Will and Mike have another nice moment, which just really makes me miss that they don't live in the same place anymore. It makes 100% sense that Joyce would be like, after all the crap that has gone on here, we are moving. We are getting out. The fact that other people in the town have not done this is like, okay. You like living on the edge, I guess. It makes sense, but it's still, yeah, I do miss that. I really wish we could have gotten like season 1 had the boys minus Will, but it would have been nice to have the boys plus Will. So I don't think part 1 they'd get together, at least maybe part 2. But since I think part 2 was just not actually a part 2 and it was just split for outside reasons other than the story, I don't know. People might be stuck separated because they got people in Indiana, California, Russia, or Alaska, and then Russia. We did have a pretty shocking to me, I wasn't expecting it at all, scene at the house where Jonathan was gonna get his friend to come pick them up and they were gonna ditch the guards or bodyguards kind of deal. The government guys that were sent there to protect them or watch them. They got shot and they're on now. The kids are fleeing from these military guys. The military showed up and just started shooting up a suburban home. Like, really? Okay. I don't know. I'm assuming this feels like this could be just they needed a bad guy and they're like, okay, military, they can be a threat. Rather, they needed a human bad guy because we already have the upside down creature as well. I'm assuming that's what the military is. They're meant to be the human element here, the human villain obstacle, and bit much for me. I stand by what I said, where they could be cut out. I don't think there's a point to them. They're serving no point for me. Guess it serves the point of being another threat until the upside down threat becomes bigger, but it's really unnecessary. I mean, part of the greatness about these episodes previously is that it would just slowly build up into this looming and then very clear presence. But here it's just, we need someone to go around shooting and all that for some reason. And it's these military guys. And it's I don't know if it's intentional or not, is where I was going with this, is that I'm wondering how anti-military they are. Because it feels very much like they're just, we're just gonna kill people for no good reason. Because military. Okay.
Немного план изменился.
А что случилось?
Yeah, I pegged him. I knew it! Yeah, I'm not shocked at all. Since meeting Yuri, I got bad signals off of him that he was very untrustworthy. He wants more money, so he betrayed the people giving him money, going to deliver them to Russia to get more money, and he gave up the location of his safe house so that they could get Hopper back, so an escaped prisoner they get back. That's more money. And they want Joyce because she was the other person that they know about anyway that invaded their super secret under the giant mall Russian base in America. It's never gonna get less goofy, guys. Ugh. And a prison guard that's corrupt, so he gave up Enzo too. Yeah, this guy has no qualms about betraying everybody he made a deal with. Lovely. Especially since it sounded like Enzo seemed to be his key to getting these deals and money and stuff. Throwing that away. I mean, alright. I mean, couldn't he have just betrayed everybody but the guard and still gotten a ton of money? Well, I suppose he wanted even more money and a corrupt guard. Yay. Betrayed everybody. What a guy.
There's no running.
We'll beat her later for not listening. Victor told Nancy and Robin the story about what happened decades ago at his home. They recently moved there. I think they were there a month. And then things started happening. They started seeing things, hallucinations, nightmares, things like that. Basically what the current victims have been seeing before they die. So we explained that then one night they killed everybody except he said, so they showed his wife die, and then he said he was in a place, but then he heard music and followed the music out, or the voice, or there was a song on the radio that they'd been listening to at dinner, and he heard that and just followed it. Because they did mention in an earlier scene, too, at the Institute, that they use music as like a sort of therapy, and certain songs can reach people, so there's clearly a link that if you like a song enough, it could allow you to feel better, or in this case, on a more literal level, probably be safer, escape from danger in your mind somehow. Probably just gives you some kind of outlet or something to seek instead of whatever bad thing is in your head. I don't know. I mean, I still don't really get how that's a total defense against literal mind power and get in your head thing, but it is. Go with it. Alright, so I think that's what they're saying. He explained that then his son was somehow still alive and died later in the hospital. So yeah, whole family dead. He was accused, arrested. Yeah, they just found out everything when, boom, hey, you there. I know you're not who you said you were.
But I had to tell you before it's too late.
Well, if you believe in the afterlife, technically you could have waited and then died and then... Okay, we won't go there.
Time for you to join me.
I don't wanna. Run! Max is at the cemetery at Billy's grave, reading a letter she wrote to him. It was actually really interesting to hear what she had to say, because these are things that we saw in the previous seasons, and so it was nice because I also thought she said at one point she says that maybe we could become friends. Then she of course she shrugged it off and was like, that's stupid. We hated each other. A guy like that is as much of a terrible person as he could be. I do think if he would have been able to survive what happened to him, he probably would have changed for the better, and it would have been really interesting to see how that relationship changed since, let's face it, if you became aware of like another dimension and literal monsters, your perspective on life is probably going to shift a little bit, and to have that in common with Max would probably probably have changed the relationship for the better and strengthened it. And it could have been really interesting to see that. But nah, he died. It was really nice still to give Max this moment to just express herself and how it sounded to me more like not so much what she believed could happen, just what she had. It was wishes, and it was a sweet thing to write. Makes me wonder what all her other letters say. We'll probably never know. Yeah, and then Lucas was all, "Talk to me, I'm right here," but he doesn't get that some people have an easier time writing things than speaking things. Like, he means well, but he does come off as being overly, I don't want to say aggressive, but how do I frame how Lucas is being? I don't know, but he's being something. I'm not gonna sit here and think about. Let's get back to the show. Is that a bit of Claire de Lune? If it was, I love that too.
Okay, I'm warning you.
Outrun the heavy set dude and the guy who's limping. You're lucky those guards are way out of shape. I'm pretty confident that is a bit of Claire de Lune, which is a really beautiful melody, and I actually first heard it in a video game, but I have loved it ever since. Robin and Nancy make a run for it. Now we have Max in trouble at the cemetery.
What's her favorite song?
What if he was an average guy and he didn't know she's just dead? She's doomed. I'm still not really understanding why the Upside Down looks so different now. It doesn't look anything like it did in previous seasons, and I don't get it. I don't get what's happening here. Nancy and Robin, Radio, or, well, rather, they see that Max is in trouble, like in the same kind of trance-looking thing that Chrissy was in, and Radio her, and they let them know that music might help, and thankfully Lucas knows her favorite song. Fitting song, I never heard it before, and I like it. It's a good song, and it really fit the scene, so very, very empowering for Max when she tries to flee this creature, and it's a great episode end where she barely makes it, which must be terrifying. And even though, it ends on a very uplifting kind of survival note, she's still just as in danger as she was at the start of this episode. And so really, this episode doesn't end well for anyone. Now, we didn't see 11, but I'm sure that means the next episode will be about her, mostly at least. I have to say, originally I did not see it coming that Max would become a target. Well, I'm still disappointed that they didn't just show a character actually have a different and realistic reaction to trauma. It was still, or unless it was both, maybe she was reacting and it just latched onto that. So then if that's the case, then they didn't totally pull the rug out from under me in my hopes of good representation of a not entirely healthy person mentally. But my point being, it was pretty cool to see Max get herself out of that situation, and of course the others helped with the music, but she was the one who got herself out of that hold and ran for it. Although it was pretty funny to see the guy basically helpless to get her once the music started playing. It really did look like all she had to do was want to get out, and she was able to, no matter what it did to stop her. I'm still really confused about what's happening, which is probably intentional, but when I get too confused, it does take a bit of the enjoyment out for me. However, I understand they want it to reveal itself as we go, so it's not like I have a problem with it, just it's a source of irritation because I don't need everything laid out for me. Well, let's face it, the show does do that, but basically what I need sense. I'm always searching for it. I need it to make sense, and I have concerns that it's not going to make sense. Rather, it might only make sense in the context of we're going to retcon things of the past to make this thing now fit and make sense when it actually doesn't make any sense never existed before. That's the sense I'm getting, and I'm not going to like that if that happens. However, that is not this episode. This episode is really, really good. I enjoyed it from beginning to end, and I didn't even feel the time. And it was another one of those long ones, about an hour 20. With credits, I think all these are more like an hour 15. This episode had a lot going on. It opened strong and it ended strong, and there was never any moment in the middle where I was like, I'm bored or feels too long. It used up every one of its minutes for something, and it kept me engaged. I'm waffling between a 9 and a 10 on this one. I'm always hesitant to give a 10 to something. Now, for me, an 11 is an actual perfect or near perfect score, because nothing's perfect in my opinion. That's 11, and that's not this. It's hard to find an 11. So 10, though, is as close to perfect as I usually would see something. It's amazing. There were things in here where I was rolling my eyes or wishing the moment would end because I was annoyed. But at the same time, it's not like that was unintentional. With Robin in the institute, she was meant to be really awkward and uncomfortable and just trying to work it as quickly as possible to get what they needed. And with Yuri, that's his character. And you can't really fault things for being predictable, because I don't know if that's a me thing or if it's the show. Maybe in the future I would rewatch and change it to a 9, but for now, on first impression, I'm giving this a 10 because I loved it. It was an amazing episode. All right, so that was episode 4 of Stranger Things, season 4. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay entertained.